Good day, my fellow Canadians. I haven't done a post in a while. I was away up north hunting. My best bud nailed a doe, so we have venison in the freezer. As an aside, apropos of absolutely nothing. Being up there, sitting quietly in the woods day by day, having a chance to chat with some truly great minds and to reflect because you're quiet, see a lot of wildlife. It was gorgeous. And then to come back to this, to Adamson's barbecue. I'm probably going to do several posts, but the most immediate one is Adamson's barbecue. What happened there was a sin. Now, I listened to all the we need the lockdowns, we have to flatten the curve, all the rhetoric. How many cops were there to close down a freaking barbecue place? I've seen less cops at murder scenes. Horse-mounted police. I'm not blaming the police. Okay, I'm not blaming the police. They have become so politicized. Our police chief is a joke. Tory is a joke. Ford, whom I had a lot of respect for, I don't know what's going on there. I really don't know if I should even bother renewing my membership in the Conservative Party or start looking at Max Bernier or Derek Sloan's party. Jim Karahelios. I don't know. I really don't know. I do know this. I was raised with a sense of morality, both by my parents and by, the church. There is a moral imperative at work here that we seem to have lost. The moral center that characterizes a lot of us seems to be sadly lacking. The moral fiber. In the military, we were taught that you do not obey an illegal order. We saw the police in France against the Yellow Vesters. Now, it did not get a lot of airplay on media here because it was civil disobedience, but justifiable civil disobedience. If you remember, a lot of the cops actually put down their batons and shields and then actually joined the Yellow Vesters, and they tried to keep that very quiet. That's what I mean about a moral center. Bad law, unjust law. At what point do you resist this? At what point do you risk arrest? Do you risk incarceration? Do you risk the expenses of a trial? And put yourself through that for the sake of the moral imperative. Those cops were wrong. But at the end of the day, you're going to get two things come to mind. One, to stand on a moral principle when you need that steady paycheck, and especially in these times. What kind of courage, exceptional courage, would it take to put your livelihood at risk for the sake of a moral principle? It's been done very rarely. It has been done, but the Canada I grew up in, they would have done it, I'd say, at least a lot more willingly than they will now. But the other thing is, you're following bad law, bad commands. Remember the Nuremberg trials? We were only following orders. I was a soldier and we were only following orders. How far did that get them? As an excuse. We saw you can't use that as an excuse. I was only following orders. As a people, as a nation, we had a strong moral center where civil disobedience, justifiable civil disobedience, was not only understood but encouraged. And you knew that if you stood up on a standpoint of solid principle, there would be a lot of people backing you. So what have we got now? the Great Reset? I am truly frightened. I was talking with a good friend of mine last night who's very upset with all this, and justifiably so. What kind of a future will he have for his child? I'm going to do a post about the Great Reset specifically because that is de facto communism, is what they're proposing. If that statement is true, the one they attribute to Trudeau, that you will have nothing and you will be happy. Really? If that is indeed something he said, my comment to him would be, you first, asshole. Show us what it's like. Divest yourself of all your wealth. Divest yourself of your $10,000 watch and your $100,000 sports car. Go live in a subsidized housing unit. Show us how you can have nothing and be happy. We're in a big mess, folks. We're seeing it in the United States and we're seeing it here. And it scares the hell out of me. I was talking to my buddy yesterday and I'm terrified. I said this in previous posts, and I hate to feel like a Cassandra, speaking in a void, but predictions falling on deaf ears. Alex Jones, InfoWars, people laughed at him. I laughed at him. Oh boy, buddy, get yourself some more tinfoil for that hat. Not laughing now. A lot of what he said years ago is coming true today. So my fear is that this is going to explode into violence. Why is Trudeau and his Liberal cabinet trying so hard to disarm the Canadian people? I mean, all this whole thing of this assault rifle ban is a crock of shit. Anybody with the brains of a tulip knows it's a crock. Even the police know this will not impact violent crime. Criminals will get firearms. The vast majority of firearms come over from the border, are illegally smuggled in. All the laws in the world will not change this. Everybody who knows firearms, anybody with a lick of common sense or even a degree of logic realizes this. So why is he trying so hard to disarm the Canadian people when factually it did not work in Australia? An island nation, it did not work. England, another island nation, it did not work. Massive non-compliance. The crime rate has spiked in a lot of those countries. More murders now than before their firearms bans. And using the guise of public safety, wear your mask, it's an issue of public safety. We're going to disarm you, it's an issue of public safety. You cannot gather, you cannot congregate, you cannot socialize. It's in the interests of public safety. And bylaw officers and police enforcing these draconian measures, we were only following orders. When the dust settles from all this, the Australian police are going to be accountable to the people. And heads will roll. And to the Toronto police officers, I am so sorry for you that you have to do that you are doing what you feel you have to do. But we were only following orders. There is going to be an explosion of civil violence, and people are going to die. There was a very powerful message from Jim Caviezel, the actor. It's out there on Facebook now. It was on the Dan Bongino show from the US, where he quoted Ronald Reagan, another one that the woke liberal left laugh at. But the words, if you haven't watched it, I cannot urge you too strongly to do so. It is frighteningly accurate. The cost of appeasement. The cost of appeasement was the Second World War. Decisive action taken at the right time prevents this. I'm not advocating insurrection, but I am prepared for it. and I'm afraid that this is coming. I'm on the backside of my life. I have no children to worry about, but I see, after my conversation with my buddy yesterday, young man with a very young child and a wife, primary breadwinner. What kind of a future does his son have? What kind of a future does my nephew have? What kind of a future does my godson have at 16? What kind of a future does this country have? Something to think about. I love this country. If you love this country, it's time to wake up, to take a position, a moral position, and stand on it. Who else has got the guts? My poor Canada.